Hey, Wicked Deke here. Wicked Deke slightly inebriated 2019-2020 NHL Atlantic Division predictions. Yes, we're talking hockey again. The season's about to start. We're less than a week away from real games. Real games, damn it. So it's time to put your huevos on the desk and make your predictions. And so the Atlantic has kind of been a downtrodden division for years. Tampa and Boston pretty much running the show. Toronto recently starting to make some headway. But this year we're starting to see maybe some surprises, although it's pretty obvious who the two worst teams are going to be. Detroit, Ottawa. So who are we picking for number one here? Well, the answer is obvious. Tampa Bay Lightning. And I know what you're saying. Wait a minute. What about last year? They got swept in the playoffs. They were awful. John Cooper couldn't coach his way out of a ferret box. Okay, I don't know what ferret box is, but you get it. And you're right. But we're talking about regular season here. Tampa was muy bueno in the regular season, and I don't see any reason why they won't be again. They haven't lost really anybody of significance. They've actually locked down most of their key players, and interestingly enough, most of the key players are young. Tampa, to the surprise of me, of moi, when I looked at them on Cap Friendly, they are actually very, very young. And so it suggests that if they could ever figure out, how to play in the playoffs, that they could be a dynasty. I mean, look at some of these ages. Kucherov, 26, Stamkos, 29, Braden Point, 23, Palat's 28, Gordy's 27, Tyler Johnson's 29, Paquette, 26, Cirelli, 22. I mean, holy schmacky. Victor Hedman, 28. McDonough, 30, old man. Sergachev, 21. Luke Schenn, damn it, 29. Luke Schenn, that's going to make the difference for the Lightning. Vasilevsky, 25. I mean, dear God, that is pretty young. So they look like they're stacked to keep making runs for it, even though John Cooper apparently doesn't know how to coach in the playoffs. I wonder if he still has nightmares about the loud man in Columbus just completely dominating him. But again, we're talking regular season, so I'm liking these boys. 2, the Toronto Maple Leafs are gambling something fierce with their roster, so I'm going to gamble along with them. I'm picking them to finish second. And yes, it is the great strange cap experience. The Kyle Dubas Crazathon. 4 players taking up half the cap. Yes. Jonathan Tavares, Austin, I get drunk Matthews, Mitch, I want to be paid, damn it, Marner, and Nylander. They make about $40 million for an $81 million cap. 4 players. Now, not to get all historical on you and shit, but you probably noticed that other teams, when they've had 2 players that get paid more than $10 million a year, seem to have problems. And the problems arise because suddenly they don't have any depth. Well, Toronto's going to try and do it with 3. So they got Mitchie, Ostiny, and Johnny all making over $10 million a year, which means the rest of the team going to be interesting. Forwards, they still got a ton of forwards. I mean, they're going to be fine on offense, but boy, that defense, ooh, Nelly. So we have Morgan Riley, very solid first pairing defender, brings a lot of offense. Above average defender. Not great, but above average. I don't know who they're going to put him with. Tyson Barrie, maybe? Barrie comes over from the Avs. Another guy with some impressive offensive skill. Not great in his own end. Not really clear on the whole checking thing or cover your man thing. So that's a pretty offensive first pairing that's probably not going to be good in their own zone. Second pairing, Jake Muzzin. More of a traditional stay-at-home defender. Not the quickest guy. Doesn't really mesh well with the Toronto style of play. But, he can be good at cutting down people and shutting down the other team's, better players. But again, who are you going to team him up with? I mean, they have Ceci that they brought in from Ottawa. I've yet to hear anybody that thinks he's a great option. I don't know why Ottawa's paying him $4.5 million a year. But yeah, no, I'd be worried about him. And then, of course, you're looking at, I don't know, Dermott, I guess, coming in, or maybe Sanding coming up out of the minors. But both of those players they're young. I wasn't really particularly impressed by either of them. Toronto's kind of banking on them, so good for them. And then whoever's playing fifth and sixth defensive pairing, I have no idea. So I think Anderson in goal again is going to have to get. He's going to have to be ready because they're going to be pucks a flying. But with all the offense, and the regular season grind, I'll give him second place. Third, Boston, the Bruins. Bruins made it to the finals last year, obviously. Suffered that 7th game loss. The reason I have Boston kind of down a bit is just not only was that a long run, but age. They're two key players, Chara, their captain, their defensive leader, and Bergeron. They're getting up there, boys. I mean, Chara's 42. Kudos to him for still playing, but 42, holy crap. And Bergeron is 34. And you don't see a lot of really productive centers at 34 or 35. Bergeron's taken a beating throughout his career. So you have to wonder how many years he has left of being, a high-end player. And I would suggest probably this is going to be it. The next year or two, Boston's going to have some serious holes to fill. My fourth pick, Buffalo. Yep, a surprise. The Sabres, the mighty Sabres. The reason for this is they have a lot of talent. They have a lot of secondary talent that they brought in. Guys like Colin Miller from the Knights, because of the Knights screwing up their cap. And so they have a lot of depth now. And more importantly, they have Ralph, as the coach now, Ralph Kruger. He is very well thought of and very good at establishing winning cultures and what have you. And so I think he's going to make a difference. You're going to see them be very good. Now, of course, they don't really have much talent in goal, Ullmark and Hutton. So that's kind of scary, and that's definitely an Achilles heel. So I kind of have to see how that goes. Also, Jeff Skinner, they re-signed him for $9 million a year. Seems a bit much, but what the hell? It's not my money. And then number 5, Florida, the mighty Panthers. And, of course, they are the big newsmakers in the offseason. They brought in the Bob. They brought in the Quinn. They brought in the Anton. No, they started adding, all these vets and obviously Quenneville. And the idea is that they're going to turn it around and make a charge for the Cup. I have questions. One, why Florida Panthers? Why would they all go there? I think we can all agree the single worst fan group in the NHL. I mean, literally, watching your team play against the Florida Panthers in Florida it looks like a practice game. The stands are filled with pretty much the family of the players and then like 35 homeless people trying to get out of the sun. Why are all these people going there? And I have a slight suspicion that maybe there are 2 reasons. 1, no income tax. 2, let's hit the beach, baby. If it comes together, great. Florida's got some talent. They've got some talent. But, man, I don't know. It just seems very strange. And then some of the money they slung around. Bobrovsky. He's an above-average goaltender. He's a good regular season goaltender. But until this past season, he was considered a complete flop in the playoffs. And he, again, you look at him. I mean, is this guy really elite? Yes, I know he's won Vezinas, but those are regular season type of awards. This is a guy that's going to take you to a cup. Man, I just don't see it. And to give him $10 million a year when he's 31, so he's going to be making $10 million when he's 39. Boy, this just doesn't seem like it's going to work out well. So I have doubts about Florida. 6, Montreal, the Canadiens. Canadian fans are immediately angry. Why 6? Well, I thought they overachieved last year. They had a lot of players that produced at a high level that you wouldn't expect, like Max Domi. This is also a very small team, and I mean small in the sense of physically. A lot of their players are tiny. Not tiny, but they are definitely on the small size. So I would suspect that a lot of teams are going to start developing strategies, which is basically beat the shit out of the Canadian players. Big, heavy checking games, because you can see Montreal having a lot of problems in that area. They're also kind of in a strange situation when it comes to talent because they haven't really. I mean, they have a ton of prospects, but you look at their forwards in particular, and there's nobody really elite. Now, money isn't everything, but their highest paid forward is Jonathan Druid, who's making $5.5 million a year, and he's a disappointment. Now, it's kind of their own fault because they tried to make him a center when he's always been a wing, but he's been disappointing. And then you look down their list, and again, money isn't everything, but there's just nobody that really sticks out as like, okay, this guy's elite. This is a guy's going to lead us. I love Brendan Gallagher, but he's not like a number one center type. Who else do they have? They got Kotakanami. I don't even know how to pronounce it these days. Jesper, he was a big surprise last year. The kid's 19, but he looked like a third line center last year. Now he'll get better as he gets bigger and what have you. But again, this is just a team you're kind of like, okay, they're going to have to do it, team getting scoring from a lot of different places, and that, that can sometimes be difficult. Shea Weber on defense, obviously still, the standard. He played, I think, half a season last year. You always have to wonder about injuries. He's 34, and his contract is for, let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7. Only 7 more years on his contract at 34. $7.8 million a year. I think he's probably going to be good for another year or two, and then it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And then let us all take a moment, say a prayer for Carl Asner. Yes, the great Carl Asner signing. He was passed through waivers today. So the defense is looking a little thin. Now, goalie, of course, you have His Holiness, Carey Price. I'm not nearly as big a fan of Price as others are. He's never done anything in the playoffs in the NHL. He's injury prone. I mean, he can have a great year, but he can also have a pretty bad year. So, who knows what you're going to get with him. And it doesn't really matter because he's only signed for another, 7 years at $10 million, $10.5 million. Everything will work out. Now, the one area where the Canadiens could obviously get a good bit better is if some of their prospects start coming up. You've got kids like Nick Suzuki. Not a huge fan of him, but a lot of people like him. Ryan Poehling, of course, coming up. He had a hat trick last year in his first game. And they have, a ton of prospects. Now, some of them are still quite young. But, as they start coming up, they start filling it into the team. Things could look pretty good. And the Canadiens are another team that has just massive draft capital. So 2020, after this coming season in the draft, they have a first, 2 second-round picks, a third, 4 fourth-round picks, 2 fifth-round picks, 6, and then a 7th-round pick. So building up the prospects is definitely the game plan here. You can see what they're doing. Do you trust Marc Bergevin? He's in good shape, so he's got a nice tan. But you're going to have to make that decision. Personally, I don't. But, Canadian fans may. Who knows? Maybe he gets it all right and they become a dynasty. I tend to think not. 7th, Detroit. Stevie Y. Stevie will save us. Yes, but probably not for 3 to 5 years. Because goddamn Ken really screwed up this team. Oh, if you want to see something ugly, head over to Cap Friendly and pull up the Detroit Red Wings page. Oy, 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 oy. They got some ugly, ugly contracts and ugly, ugly situations. Now, the benefit or the good news is Sir Stevie only has to wait about a year before a lot of this start falling off the cap. But it's pretty ugly. I mean, you just look at, injured reserve right now. They've got $10 million there. Zetterberg and Franson. Buyouts. They're still paying on Stephen Weiss. And then some of the contracts. Jonathan Erickson, $4.25 million. Really? Yikes. And then you get up into the some of the older boys, Niels Franson, $5.25 million, 35, only for 3 more years. But a lot of these guys are starting to fall off. Darren Helms only got 2 more years left. Abdicator has 4 years left, so that's kind of ugly. But there are also some young kids that are impressive. You can see them building a foundation around as they move forward. Dylan Larkin, obviously being pretty much the number one guy at 23, and he's signed for 4 years at $6 million, which is a steal. And then you're looking at like Anthony Mantha, and you're looking at the guy with the Greek name that I can't pronounce, Andreas Athanasiou. Let's call him AA. And they brought in guys like Fippola to help guide the young kids. Tyler Bertuzzi, there's a guy I like. But let's be honest, it's going to be a couple of years of misery. And that's just the price they're going to have to pay. And then they'll get rid of everything that Ken did. And then you have in 8th place, and I know you'll be shocked, the Ottawa Senators. Yes, the Senators. Oh, if you are a Senator fan, I feel horrible for you. you have the worst owner in hockey, and that's saying something. The one thing you can really kind of hold on to is, even though the team's going to be awful, you got tons and tons of prospects in the farm system, and you got tons and tons of draft picks coming. Just looking at 2020, I mean, the Senators have 2 firsts, 3 seconds, 1 third, 1 fourth, 2 fifth, actually 1 fifth, 2 6th-round picks, and a 7th-round pick. That's a ton of picks. So they're going to be kids coming. So you have more kids coming, like a Brady Tkachuk and players of that sort. But the actual NHL team, oh man, they're going to be bad. Bad. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sure I'm not telling you something that you don't already know, but this is going to be an awful team. So anyways, that's what we got in the Atlantic. No big surprises except maybe Buffalo. You can kind of see how things are playing out. The division's pretty static compared to last year. But as we move into maybe 2 or 3 seasons down the line, you can see Boston being in pretty significant trouble. Toronto potentially as well, if that 4-headed horseman approach doesn't work well. You can probably expect to see Florida move up a bit, and then Montreal should probably be moving up a good bit as some of their prospects come up. But anyways, hope you enjoyed the video. Deke out.